another episode of our Amba history. And in our Amba history today, we have Barrister Tim who will be talking to us, updating us, and telling Ambazonians what and where actually we are now in this struggle. Don't fail to remember that this struggle is God ordained. And because it is God ordained, we are on course because we are following the pattern that He gave to us. Now, let's listen to this and we'll get rolling. All right.
Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. You know my name more than the air. You know me, you know my name. I can see your hand in my life. Lord, I see your love upon me. Every time I look around, now you are the see. Every time I turn around, now you are the view. I dey hear your voice in my heart. Lord, I feel your love over me. Every time I look around, now you are the see. Every time I turn around, now you are the pillow. Abba Father, you know my name. Papa, you know me. Yeah. You know me. You know my name. Yelele, 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 yelele. Yelele, 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 yelele. Yelele, 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 yelele. Yeah, yeah. Yelele, yelele, yelele. Jesus, your love, now oh. My master, your kindness, now wonder oh. Every time I look around, now you are the sea. Every time I turn around, now you are the view. Jesus, you said I be a picking, no. Jesus, you said your love go cover me. Every time I look around, now you are the sea. Every time I look around, now you are the pillow. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. Papa, you know my name, oh. You know me, you know my name.
Thank you very much, Reverend Sama. Truly speaking, our Father knows Ambazonia, and we are pushing on. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Ambazonians of goodwill, and even Ambazonians who sincerely want us to go to Ambazonia but have been caught up in the web of deception and bribery and corruption, trying to sell us back as slaves to La Republic. We are here to tell the whole world and the Ambazonian people that Ambazonia is the 55th nation of Africa and the 196th nation of the world. And with that new appellation and position, we are calling on the powers that be to make sure that they give us our seat in the UN and then give us our seat in the AU. And of course, the international community should join us, talk about our reality. And with that, I would want to bring into the studios right now with me our able barrister team who will be talking to us on a variety of subject matters that concern our going to Boya. I will make sure that we zero them down to the position in which we find ourselves now. Now, barrister, before we get started, I would like to ask and crave your indulgence to say hello to the Ambazonian people and to the entire people of the world that are watching and listening to ABC Amba TV at this juncture. Over to you. The microphone is yours.
Thank you, Reverend Komando, to the viewers, to the spectators, to the anguished listeners. You're all welcome. I presume that we're learning a lot, especially because of this generation that is in the majority born after 1960. And so there's a lot that has gone under the rocks that we did not know. We have lost a great deal. We have to pick the spoils, and move on. If we learn what we had, we can only build a better foundation by knowing what existed, building on it, and reforming going forward. Thank you once more. I hope someone will learn something by the time we come to the end of this.
Yes. Thank you very much, Barrister, for always being available and coming in to educate not only the Ambazonian people, but the people around the globe, who to them it is strange to hear the stories that we are telling. Now, Barrister, I want to go ahead and ask you to clarify the audience that is out there because of a narrative that has gone over more than 60 years where everybody is like shocked when you say you are not breaking away from La République du Cameroon, but that you are getting back, you are restoring your independence and the governorship of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. The narrative out there has been that the Ambazonian people and La République du Cameroon, there is no difference. Now, historically, can you just break the ice by letting the people know that we have never been the same nation with La République du Cameroon? Over to you.
Well, there's no doubt something called Cameroon existed. And that Cameroon was divided into two between France and the UK, who were the victorious powers at the Second World War in 1945-44. That has shaped our history going forward because the way the French ran the untrust territory was in line with what existed in France then and today. The way the British ran theirs, to which we belong, was very much in line with what existed in the UK then and even today. And so we are not the same. The two are not comparable. There are very few similarities. And then, of course, in this process, we, the Ambazonians, the former British Southern Cameroonians, we've lost almost everything through forceful absorption of something which was, of things that were completely foreign to us. They were then, they are still today. We have been struggling to pick the spoils, to feed ourselves into, in fact, trying to fit a square hole into a round hole. It doesn't fit. We won't go in. We try to adopt what they did just to be part of them. It has not worked because there's no similarity between a square and a round hole. So that's where we are. We're going to address some of these few issues if time permits us today. Thank you.
Again, thank you. Very briefly, you have been notified, you have been told Cameroon or Cameroons was divided into two by the colonizers, giving one part to France and one part to Britain. And these two Cameroons were ruled as different entities. And when the time came for their independence, La Republique got their independence on the 1st of January 1960. And during this time, the British Southern Cameroons was not a part of it. And October 1st, 1961, we got our independence. Now, we'll not go back to the long story of our leadership before the independence of La Republique and our independence. That is an issue that is past. Now, when we left the Nigerian Association in 1953 and were on our own, ruling ourselves, established the government that we are now actually back to it with the Endele, the Foncha, the Gomjoa, and before the coup that La Republique staged, which was a slow but silent, cold coup that took place, and we got into this mess. Now, what is the cause of our trying to go back to our former stage, and we are now at war? Actually, a genocide that has taken more than 50,000 souls and taken more than 500 villages. And unfortunately, some of the homes being burnt with people inside. We joined or decided to become a federation with the Republic of Cameroon without a gunshot. Now, Barrister, can you tell the entire world and the people of Ambazonia why we want to come out and there are gunshots? Meanwhile, there were no gunshots when we decided to be as one. And of course, go ahead to tell us when the final abrogation of the union we tried to make with the Republic took place, which I think is 1984. Go ahead and then tell the people this story again. We must be repeating the story so that people can understand. It may be it's a repetition, but there are people who want to hear and want to know it every now and then. So go ahead and then give a brief summary of this, and then we'll push on. Over to you.
I think, let us look at it this way. We all have this documented history of 1984, 1972, 1961 as the beginning of the end, or as the end to what we used to call, what was known as Southern Cameroon. What were we ending? What were they ending? What was dying? What was being killed? I think that's where we should look at. You've talked about burning of houses, killing of people, and all that. Who are those killing people? Who are those burning houses? Who are those doing all this? It is the military. The Cameroon government coins it, and the world accepts that there's insecurity, security crisis in the northwest and southwest. Sure, there are security crises, but for us to understand where we are coming from, and we've talked about restoration, we must try to understand what we are trying to restore in terms of this security. If you permit me, I will start from security. And there's a reason why we should start from there. Because
So go ahead, go ahead. The microphone is yours. Tell the people.
almost
Tell the people.
everybody in every village, in any corner, can testify of what the police has done to them, or what the gendarmes have done to them, or what the military has done to them. So this is a combination of what they call security combined, put together. And so that is where we are. Let us address security. British Southern Cameroon was a country or a state or a trust territory with all the security instruments put in place. Nothing similar to what we had then that is going on today. What security? What we did not have as West Cameroon, as Southern Cameroon, later on West Cameroon, was an army, was a military. We didn't have a military force, understandably because the military defense of British Southern Cameroon lay under the Queen of England. They were British troops. But we had internal security, which is what touched everybody's life in the village, in the marketplace, everywhere, on the highway. This security at that level was maintained by what we call the West Cameroon, Southern Cameroon, later on the West Cameroon Police. The police was a civil force meant to intermingle with the civil population, catch thieves, catch fighters, do all this. And we are so familiar with something they call the Motengene Police College. That's
Right.
where police are trained. The Motengene Police College was never opened by East Cameroon. It existed before we joined them to train our police. In fact, it was effectively opened on the 3rd of June 1960, more than a year before we ever came to join the Republic. But what were these people? They were just civilian people. They didn't carry pistols. They carried batons. They had handcuffs. They could handcuff you, but they carried batons because they were dealing with an unarmed population. They were dealing with civilians. They respected your right. If there was a riot, they came in with batons to quiet the riot. They didn't come with guns to shoot and kill anybody. They arrested you, disarmed you with their own physical hands, and you were taken to court if necessary, and the matter was heard and determined there. They had control over what we call traffic on the highway. If you were running an overspeed, the police will cite you or you'll be taken to church for exceeding this limited speed. They didn't stand on the road and take money from you for overspeeding. That was the role of the police, the civil police that had existed from 1960 before we ever joined these people. And as evidence for this, I can tell you for all my life as a lawyer, beginning 1983 in Buya, Buya was one of the most developed places, even in terms of the courts. I never saw a single traffic case, somebody over speeding, being brought to court. Never. If the police say, oh, Vitas, you get 500 francs, and that ended it. I didn't go to any government treasury, it ended with the police. And so the functions of the police have been completely destroyed. But before I get there, it does not mean that we do not contemplate people doing things differently. They were not all that civilian. We had another branch of the police, which was called the mobile wing. It was trained, for example, to deal with riots, urgent situations. They were professional. They were called the mobile wing of the police. They were not called the mobile wing army. In strict terms, they can be referred to like what we call today the B. They were not called to go to Mankor and catch people, to go to Manfield or to Boya. No, 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 no. They sat there for special duties in case B. If there was a riot that required something, they had some small guns. And so they were called the mobile wing. So our security was ensured by the ordinary police and the mobile wing, which was so professional. They were like the military. They're given some military training in the mobile wing, while the ordinary police guy was trained in civilian interventions. But what happened? We have been making a mistake. So as I said, the 1984 event or 1972, they were just the final nail that were put on the coffin of a dead Southern Cameroon. Came September 30th, 1961. Yaoundé invaded Southern Cameroon. And let us deal purely with security. They came into Southern Cameroon. There was a Southern Cameroon police force. There was a Southern Cameroon mobile wing force. But they came with an additional army, two components of their army. They came with the military, the fighting force, with, with tanks and guns. In addition to that, they also came with gendarmes. We have never known what is called gendarmes. in the East Cameroon then, or the Republic of Cameroon, they didn't have police, they only had gendarmes, which were like the paramilitary. But now they brought this additional force to us, the army and the gendarmes, who spoke barely French. Nobody understood what they were doing. They exercised their rights as existed in France, like gendarmerie is a French thing. So it was all that foreign to us in southern Cameroon. So by coming in on September 30th with their military and their gendarmes, they had effectively killed the West Cameroon security apparatus, which was essentially run by the police. It is only after joining us that they sought to institute the police in their own force. I ask yourself the question back in Cameroon. You go to Bamenda, for example, or to Manfa, any big town, you see something they call post the police. Then at the corner of there, somewhere a kilometer apart, you find something brigade de gendarmerie. What functions are they performing differently? Somebody steals your plantain or your chicken, you either run to the police or to the gendarme. Why are they having this double force? And what is characterized there? You're running on the road, you have come to road, you have something they call mixed control. What is it mixed? It's mixed with gendarmes, police, and the army, armed or armed to the teeth. Was that the rule we had? Never. We never had that of mixed control. Traffic was ensured by the ordinary police. In case of need, the mobile wing was called in. And that was all. They didn't have to be standing on the road. You don't need all that combined force on the road to ask for your identity card if they need one. What do they need all these three people armed to ask you for an identity card? What does a driver need a triple force of armed men to ask him or her to show her driver license or to show the insurance of the car that they are driving in? The whole idea, summary of it, is not because they want to do security. It's because they want to extort money from the people in the name of security. I remember, and I can be quoted here, when I was in Boya, I had so many friends who were gendarmes. And one of the things that they did, going to the road to stand on the highway and collect money was part of their functions. And they knew they were collecting money. That Jange, you had the privilege to be sent to the road because the brigade commander, or whatever he is called, commandant the brigade, company commander, or chef de post, they knew that they were making money. That's what they call Jange, members who belong to it, where they were picking 100,000 francs every month. And the brigade commander, or the commandant, the post, the police, never contribute anything. The people went to road, make sure they contributed his own share, that he will pick a million after giving 100,000. If you get 10 of them, it's a million francs on the collection. And so they do that. Again, I've said I never saw, even till today, a case in the court which is dealing with traffic. And again, on security side, all of us are familiar. We'll go to Bamenda. You move from downtown to upstation. You move from Mancon to Bafoot. You move from Mancon to Nkwen. These towns, all like Boya, from my 17 up, from Mutinge up to Boya station. We have schools littered all over there. There are schools on the road, universities, high schools, primary schools. How many of us here can say they've ever seen a sign of a school on the road there? Why do you have these road signs for schools? It's to avoid drivers that children are crossing. It's dangerous for you to go at a particular speed. How many of us have ever seen a speed limit in town? Say you're driving from Mancon to Bafoot or from Mancon to Bale. They put, look, speed limit 10 kilometers an hour because the population is there. It is not there. So the security is compromised. The gendarmes are there, standing there, not to enforce those things, but to extort money from them. and so on and so forth. Again, I think most some of us will remember a certain guy called Magistrate Dopping. Dopping trained in England. He was a American guy, but he trained in London as a magistrate. And he came back to Boya and he was a magistrate there. I still remember a case he did. A guy was charged for overspeeding, I think between Moyoka and Boya. They didn't have these meters that was measuring it. So they came there, the guy said, well, I was not overspeeding. It was the duty of the police to prove that this guy was overspeeding. He didn't have any other evidence. And Mr. Nopin, the magistrate, turned and asked the driver, you want to know why you were overspeeding or how you were overspeeding? He said, yes. The man said, it was a joke. I've never forgotten that his tough reason. He said, look, we did for road while they drive from Moyuka to Boya. You did for back, you pass other motor, you pass other motor, go. You know, they run fast. Why you think so? You know, you pass all man for back. And then they found him guilty, and then whatever was the penalty, he paid the fine. So I'm just trying to show that security has been compromised to an extent that we cannot talk about security as an institution. So that's the first institution which we attempt to restore. Can we restore it? Yes. Shall we restore it exactly as it was in 1960, 1961? Maybe. But we have to learn what we had in order to be able to build what we intend it to be. And so this is the background to the confused security we have. Like all of us remember these children being shot at the checkpoint in Moliko. They were not shot by they were shot by policemen. They were shot by gendarmes. What are gendarmes doing in Moliko before Lycée Bileng? If you know where Lycée Bileng is, it's one of the biggest schools in Boya. Opposite it is also Lycée Technique de Fille. These two schools put together will bring more than 3,000, 4,000 students on the highway. There's no sign there that there's a school there. And they're all crowding on the road every day. And then there's a police checkpoint there. Leave there, play. By the time you go up to Bonduma, they will another one. What traffic are they controlling? Zero traffic. So security has been compromised to the extent that if we must restore it, we'll have a long way to go. Why a long way? Because the people who inherit tomorrow when we establish institutions are going to be guys who have been doing this thing as commissaire, left and right. They have been transferred to Bafusam. They have worked in Betua. They have come with the culture of dropping people of money. And so it will be be a difficult thing for us to do. But if we understand it, we will do it better. So
Wow.
that's as far as security is concerned. Then moving forward, if you want me to finish before we start to ask me questions, the next institution I
Mm-hmm.
want us to look at is you say you have always heard about three arms of government: the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. That existed in Cameroon, in southern Cameroon, but it was not what we find here. Other than abolishing the southern Cameroon House of Representatives and the House of Chiefs, more has been done to destroy it. Today we hear something they call the Northwest House of Chiefs, the Southwest House of Chiefs. It's nothing to resemble what we had in the 1960s. In the 1960s, from the 1954 up to 1960, when the House of Chiefs was also created, what a parliamentary system. What government ministers, called them secretaries of state, but they were ministers. You could not be a minister or a secretary of state unless you were a parliamentarian, unless you were representing a constituency elected into parliament. So ministers were chosen up from among the parliamentarians, which is totally absent now. There was a constituency for the people. The last known parliament of West Cameroon was 26 members. They represented all of Cameroon. The last one in 1960-61 was 26 members. Everybody represented a constituency of a fixed population. Things were not done as now, where Paul Biya can sit in Yaoundé and say, okay, we want 10 MPs from Mezam, we want 50 from Bolova, we want 5 from the north. No, things were not done that way, choosing based on a fixed population minimum. Can we restore that? Of course we can. But we also had the House of Chiefs. The House of people in Parliament are elected based on their political parties. It's a party representation. That's why you talk about Ndele government, who represented the KNC, Foncha government, who represented the KNDP. These were political parties. But we also had what they call the House of Chiefs. The House of Chiefs was not based on political parties. No. It was meant to be something like we have the House of Lords in England, in the UK. They are appointed or elected by their peers to represent something, to give opinion on legislation passing through Parliament. So the House of Chiefs was something like that. Not every chief could just walk in. Chiefs were elected by their peers of the same cultural background. And they went in, for example, I remember in my own area, the Bangwas, the Kinkwas, and the Mundanis, they had to send in only one because they have almost the same culture. They had to send one chief to represent them. They elected their chief among themselves. And what was the role of the House of Chiefs? What was the role of the chiefs then? Almost every legislation you are going to pass is going to affect the people in the villages. It's going to affect the people in the villages. So these chiefs will give an opinion of what that thing will mean to the people of the village, to the people of the community to which it is going to be applied. They were not elected for KNDP or KNC or whatever thing you call it. And so that's how the House of Chiefs was constituted. Was there any House of Chiefs in the East Cameroon? Never was there anyone. Never has there been anyone like that. And so until today we will hear something fun about the first class fund, fun about for the first class fund. This one third class. Our chiefs were never classified in first, second, third class by any text. Never like that. Those things they call first class fund, first class chief, second class, and all that did not come in until 1976, after they abolished the Southern Cameroon in 1972. They now came in with this so-called decree classifying chiefs, naming A first class, B second class, as they wished. And that way you find the destruction of the institution. Going forward, every chief, if he was in the second class, want to go and bribe so they can be put in the first class. Because this time around, the chiefs are paid by virtue of their grade. If you are first class, you have some money, maybe 100,000 in those days. Second class, 50,000 if you are performing those functions. And so people have to bribe their way to become whatever grade of chiefs they have given them. And so that was the destruction of the parliamentary system. The chiefs, now they have the House of Chiefs in Bamenda, one in Boya. What is their role? They don't give any opinion on any legislation that is being passed in Yaoundé. They are not even they are not advisory. They give them the competence to do nothing. Unlike the House of Chiefs in the West Cameroon days. They gave opinion, they voted, and their vote had meaning. Their opinion was highly respected. And again, if you look at what was in 1960, 61, 62, the chiefs then, the majority of them were illiterates, but they knew what they were doing. I think the few I can remember who were very, very literate at that time was Anguafo and Mokete in Kumbade and a few others. But the rest were just ordinary citizens by virtue of the position they occupied as chiefs. By virtue of the fact that they represented a people, the people of their own community, their villages, their fondom, their chiefdom, whatever thing it was. And so their opinion was highly respected. The minister was not supposed to trample on them. Not like today, you find something they call duos, who call themselves chef de terre. If you watch Equinox TV, you lament at it. A duo gives instruction to the chief because he's chef de terre. And the chief said, no, the duo got so furious. He's standing out on his two legs and quarreling. Who are you? How can you challenge me? Who is the authority of this so-called duo in the village? Who knows him? He comes there once in a while. He's giving goats and pigs to take it back home. He's giving beer. Other than that, they don't know him. He's never been there. They don't know him. He has no authority. He doesn't know the culture of the people. He doesn't know what obtains. They come to enthrone the chief. They enthrone the chief. They don't even know how the chief is enthroned. They don't know how do you go and enthrone the font of so Obale, Omako. Are you a ballet man? Do you know how it is done there? How are you going to enthrone him? And so we
Wow.
get this confusion. We get this confusion and destruction of our institutions. I put this under institutions. And so for today, unless more time permits me, I've dealt with security, I've dealt with the police, I've dealt with the gendarmes, I've dealt with the mobile wing, how they have been disputed, how they have been destroyed. As an institution, I've dealt with the legislation, legislature, which in our own context was bar camera. It was not like the Senate of today, where somebody says in your name, say, okay, now who has given us 10 senators? So who has given us 10 senators? Of the 10 senators that he give us, President Paul Biya will give you 3. He doesn't even know the people. He puts his friends there to represent him in the Senate. And then people maneuver your way and bring the rest. It was never something like that. Be it Foncha, be it Indele Imboya, did not come down to influence who was going to go to the House of Chiefs. They were elected
Wow.
by their own. They represented the
Wow.
people. Because a chief or a fund is supposed to be a custodian of the culture. If they're talking about land, they know what land is in the village. If they're talking about quick is a Bamanda word, but they're all quick everywhere. There's no palace in the Cameroons, in the southern Cameroons. That does not have a quick installation. They have the tradition on how to install their chiefs. Call it quick any name you give it, they are there. The Bakwere have it in their own language. The Bangwas have it in their own language. The Bame, the Sots, the Beacons, they have all that title there. those symbolic functions there. And so on and so forth. And he survived on the culture of the people. And let me end it here. How did Nifundi survive in the 1992 revolt? How did he survive? Nifundi did not have an army. He had nothing. He didn't have a police force. But he survived thanks to the Takumbeng. This old woman who could strip themselves naked and scare away with Paul Biya if he came to arrest them. That was the culture of that place there. That's how Nifundi survived. Could you have
Wow.
replicated the Takumbeng in Boya or the Takumbeng in Kumba? No, you don't have that out in there. But they saved the political icon in Bamenda. They could not, even when those people with their guns were coming, I think I wanted the venture to beat on the Takumen. But I didn't know what would happen to you after trampling on that old man naked. You may probably have an effect, and most of them had. And so they ran away. And Nifrundi survived. Even though today he's turned against the very Takumbeng, he's turned against the very culture. That saved him. Did not save his political
Yeah.
career alone, they saved his own life. Because Yaoundé was prepared to eliminate anyone, anybody who stood against their way. Yes, he didn't get the presidency, but at least he got his life. He got his life. That has made him one of the richest people in the whole Northwest region today. Before becoming the party chairman, what was Mr. Nifrondi? He owned a thing they call a BB bookshop. The turnover of a BB bookshop was not even up to 500,000 a year. But today he has houses in the commercial avenue. He's become a rancher. He has houses in Yaoundé. Yeah, he never became president, but he got to where he never would have gotten, thanks to the saving of the Takumban, which is cultural. So, if, for
Thank you.
example, when Malcolm was in the House of Chiefs and they were talking about laws on Takumban, on the women, he will know what it means. He will advise. Don't know how you deal with those people there. Those institutions you don't deal with them like that. He will tell the legislature, no, will advise you not to do this, and they will take it seriously. That's the reason. That's the context in which I'm bringing this type of examples. Thank you once more.
Thank you very much, Barrister. Sincerely, I think the Ambazonian people who are listening to you and the international community hearing pieces and bits of this, our long standing history, are very, very inspired. I do not know what adjective to use to describe what you have said, but I will just go back to the biblical saying that how are the mighty fallen? Yes, that's the only thing I can say. How are the mighty fallen? Because Ambazonia, from the stories you are telling, now I want to inform the Ambazonian people that all that Barrister is talking here will be brought to you on audio. We will definitely bring it on audio so that it can reach down to every one of you who is not able to listen to this succinct history of Ambazonia. And from all that Barrister has said, I am telling you, I can only say, how are the mighty fallen? Yes, Barrister, I may not have enough commentaries to make because personally, I am really, really flabbergasted. And just to mention to the people of Ambazonia, from what he has said, we did not know corruption until our republic came in, and today we find ourselves where we are. And a number of Ambazonians who experienced that, some of them who have not even experienced what Barrister is saying, meaning from birth, they have the DNA of their forefathers who lived the way Barrister has just explained, taking the police, they used to call it police service, not police force. It was police service because police were regarded as civilians in uniform, and the uniform was what gave them the power to bring peace and tranquility where there were some uprisings, because we still had those kind of people existing. But I mean, I'm going to bring it. Let's have a musical break and then we'll come back. And please, our phone number is right there on the screen. If you have anything, a question to ask, and you want to call to talk to Barrister and tell him and ask a question, he is ready, and that's the phone number you can call right now and be able to talk and ask your question. Let's get to a musical break. I will be right back, and Barrister will continue with this wonderful information that when you hear it and you are really hungry, you will fight for Ambazonia to be restored to its original stage. Let's listen to this.
Everywhere you go, come, let us rejoice and be glad. Hallelujah.
Thank you very much, Ambazonian sisters, for calling us to remember. When I hear the tidbits of the profound stage of Ambazonia in the days of former British Southern Cameroons, our House of Chiefs, the position of our chiefs, the security of our country, the police and their job, before these criminals came in to take us almost hostage. And for 60 something years, we have been in this bondage. But thank God, freedom has come, and we must go by the freedom that has been given to us. Now, Barrister, I am really, really, really thrilled. And I pray that Ambazonians will take time to listen to their history so they can fight to go back to where they were before. Now, the question I want to throw with you here, and please just go ahead and give us the response. With what is presently going on now, do you think that we shall be able to conquer and recover our our state as it was in the 50s and the early 60s? The microphone is yours.
We should be able to. I said earlier that, look, you must know the history of the past in order to build for the future.
Right.
For example, again, talking about the security, the police. I've said the police were divided into two: the ordinary police guy and the mobile wing faction of the police. But they were all known as the police. There are only one boss in Boya who was called the police commissioner. In fact, he was referred to as the commissioner of police for southern Cameroons. Only one. These were all departments under that office of security. I remember in the 1960s, there was a guy in Boya who was called the commissioner of police for southern Cameroon. He was called N. Tuni. We learned it in school. It was part of the knowledge in school to know who is the commissioner of police for southern Cameroon or for West Cameroon. He recited it, just like we recited who was the prime minister, who was the minister of finance. We knew those things. And so this guy, if anything concerned the police, he had to go to him. He had to end up in his office. The police was security. Now, as I've given the example, we have all these things in common. Commandant Territorial de la Gendarmerie, Brigade Special, Commandant de Troisième Militaire, Region Militaire, and all that nonsense, which makes it even so impossible to be accountable. The police cannot investigate the gendarmes. The gendarmes cannot investigate the police. The gendarmes cannot investigate the military. The military cannot investigate the gendarmes. That is why we have all what is going on today. If they went to Ngarbo and kill people, gendarmes, for example, you're going to report to who? Report gendarmes to gendarmes? The police cannot come there to investigate them. Neither can they go to investigate the police, and so they go free. Who actually commands, for example, the B? The B are a special force attached only to the presidency. They were meant to be rapid intervention force. So the presidency, they were not meant to go and fight wars in Jikwa, go and fight wars in Dop. That was never part of their role. But when they get there and shoot and kill people, to whom do you report? So, shall we be able to restore what we have? Yes, by reforming the institutions, by abolishing what is not necessary. If we need an army, which I think we shall need, that is to fight foreign wars. The army is not going to be meant to go and fight people in Bamenda, fight people in Manfay, fight people in Campbell or wherever. No, that's not the role of the army. The army is not going to be policing the road to see who is a driver, who doesn't have a driver license, who doesn't have an insurance card for his car. No, that's not the role of the police. So we should avoid this duplication of functions that have no meaning. If we must keep gendarmes, then the police have to go away. Since we cannot keep gendarmes because they are a French force, we'll keep the police and the gendarmes will go away. If they need them for something, let them go to where they belong. Our brothers and sisters who are in the gendarmerie, if we abolish the gendarmerie, are not going to be jobless. We'll send them to the police and return them for the police methods. As simple as that. So can we do it? Yes. but it will largely depend on the people who have the power over the territory when we have successfully restored our independence. They must have a vision. They must be able to come out of this nonsense. If they do it carefully, we can restore what we need with improved methods. And then that will make us instead better than what we have gone through a bitter experience, which is should be a learning experience. We have learned a lot from these abuses. But if we take at it, what did we learn that we should never continue? We have already known what is bad. So it is easier to bury the dead than to hear that your brother got was killed. You cannot even see his dead body. So bury the dead things that we don't like, improve on the ones that we already have, and we will deliver 10 times better than what we delivered in the 1960s. That's about it all. Again, I said we're not going to manufacture people. We talk about justice. We're going to inherit our brothers and sisters who are magistrates who have been trained only in Inam, whose sole function is to take bribe, whose role is to go and do double justice. They will still be part of us. Are we going to dismiss all of them? No. But shall we seek to improve on them? Yes. And so that is how it would work. I hope so. I'm not sure that will be a governor in Boya or somewhere. But I think those people that are coming up to take over the reins of power are not stupid. They're educated people. What encourages me more is that those of us who are old, we're giving up on this thing. Everybody who is fighting now and dying, there are people who were born, they didn't even know what I'm talking about. They were born after 1960. They didn't see these things. They didn't know there was anything called an Antonio Mboya, who was the commissioner, but they didn't know about it. But they are fighting more than we all fought put together. So they have the good will. I think they are prepared to make the country 10 times better than what they made it in 1961. So let us be encouraged. We have children who were not born then, who have learned what is good, and they are prepared to implement it to make our lives better rather than making their lives worse. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ambazonians, I hope you are all listening, because when you know where you are coming from and you want to get back there, you must put up an affront to whoever is standing on the way to make you not to go there. We are very grateful, Barrister, for this insightful historical facts telling the entire world the position that Ambazunia had. Your last encouraging words are very powerful in this particular segment, which you have said that when we get back home, hopefully will be better than and improve than it was in the 60s. That is very, very encouraging, because we have learned a lot, and what we're doing, which was in darkness, we have seen the other side, and we have seen the negative side, and now we can improve very seriously for the people of Ambazonia. Thank you very much. Now, somebody is writing from home. He says he's in Bamenda, and he's asking, I want to find out why this crisis is too long. But I just replied to him that this is not a crisis. This is a genocide, and it was a plan to annex Ambazonia, which has been aborted. That's the reply I've just given him. And we are now in the abortion part of it, trying to restore back our homeland. So he shouldn't call it crisis. Barrister, over to you. Add something to answer to this request
Whatever he calls it,
and
whether he calls it
concern of this
crisis
young
or
man.
not, whether he calls it crisis or whatever he calls it, the central theme in his question is, why is this thing lasting too long? Call it crisis, call it anything. Why is it lasting too long? Well, what you say is just part of the frustration of human beings. I've always given this example. In an ordinary society, in our own society in Bamenda there, in Boya, wherever, if you are a married man with 1, 2 children, and you have been living in the marriage for 5, 6, 10 years, and the marriage has to break down, there'll be a divorce. You go to court. On the average, a divorce with family, with kids, in an ordinary court in Bamenda or Boya or anywhere in the Anglophone zone or in the northern or southern zone, the average life of that case is between 3 to 5 years for you to secure a divorce. So it's not long. Divorce are so always difficult because the court that's granting divorce, like the United Nations today or whoever organization who are listening to us, they think that, well, this thing can be fixed. So it will give them more time. It will adjourn it to see it will fix the palaver. So it's not lasted too long. 5 years is not too long. In fact, 5 years is the shortest. We have said it before. We have known about other revolutions. I don't know anyone that has gone faster than ours. So it's not too long, brother or sister. You just need to be patient. The patient dog eats the fattest bone. It's not too long. 5 years is like yesterday. I'm not sure 5 years have even passed, given the events that have gone in the past 5 years. It has not lasted too long. It's just that you are thinking that it should have been today, and everybody will be happy if it is today or tomorrow. But it doesn't happen like that. We are attaining certain stages. In fact, again, on the marriage issue, we're going to divorce your wife or your husband. They give you first a period of judicial separation. You are separated. Go and live in Kambe. The other one lives in Mukumba. But you're still wives. But you are judicially separated. Come back after 3 years before they will give you the final divorce. So we're establishing our institution. We're in this process of judicial separation. Yaoundé knows that. Hear what is going on in the Bamanda. They tell you, well, the House of Chiefs said, well, we don't want to take money and go and neutralize our children. They know they cannot control what they're giving money to these people to do it. That period of judicial separation, we can call it, in terms of marriage. We are separating. It's coming. Just be patient. The next thing you should do is to pray that you should not pass away before we get to the final day. Thank you.
Yes, Barrister, thank you. Thank you. Ambazonians, again, we want to let you know that we were enjoying our heaven here on earth before La Republic came in the way Barrister has explained. And there are still some people who are getting up like if they are dreaming. And they are talking some things that if anybody who has ever fought to have its country be what it is today, if they hear you talking the way you are talking, they will laugh you to scorn. America fought, I don't know for how many years, maybe 7 years, if I'm not mistaken, to get their land. Other countries fought. That's Nigeria by the side of Ambazonia. They fought and they got back their country. That's the Republic of Cameroon. When the real people who wanted independence from their colonial master France, when they got up to fight, France joined with La Republic and the criminal gang that was existing and eliminated them. Until tomorrow, they don't have the freedom they were expecting to have. They are slaves. They are living in bondage. And when you, as an Ambazonian, you come up and you're telling us that people are dying, Amba boys are dying, and so on, we agree with your ignorance and we kind of sympathize with what you are saying, but we will not allow La Republic to keep us as slaves again. That's why we are standing and from the prophetic word that our barrister has said, we are looking forward to building a nation that if it is not one in Africa, it will be one in the world. Yes, we know that corruption has entered and has taken a hold of almost everybody that's on the face of the earth. I say almost, I didn't say all, but there is a remnant there is a people that are standing, and these people are the people of Ambazonia. And we still have our men and women like Barrister who experience a bit of what happened in the early 60s and studied and learned from what happened in the 50s. And today, he can give us a comparative discussion between what is happening now in La République du Cameroon and us, and what happened when we were just we. And he has elaborately described to us that every institution that we had and its good working relationship with the other people, when La République came in, they pretended to take the same institution and use it to corrupt and to bring in their corruption, which is eating into the fabric of the society today. I remember that in 1973, when I was in college, and we had some of these francophones who were with us, and they started introducing bribe to us who were studying. A prefect will tell you, if you give me your meat, you will not clear the punishment that you came late to the refectory. What was that? That was the beginning of a bribe, that you can give something and don't do the corrective measure that you're supposed to have. I remember in Boya, they used to have what they call the Boster Institute, which was, I don't know, the prison was there, the prison that was there was reformative. When you go to that prison, before you come out, you had one thing or the other to do. Either you come out as a tailor, or you came out as a farmer. I mean, all those kind of things were happening in the institute, the Reformatory Institute in Boya. But what do we have today? Well, our time is up, and Barrister, I will hand over to you to say your concluding words for today. And please just get ready. We will be bringing you back because this succinct history that is real for Ambazonians to know, we want to have it again. And I promise you, before the end of today, this what you have said today will be fragmented into small speeches and sent on audio, so that the people back home who cannot listen to this will hear the audio of this program. Thank you very much. The microphone is yours. Go ahead and then say your closing remarks
Yes,
for
before I
today.
close, let me just make a small correction. The Boster Institute was and is not a prison. It is still there. It's a reformatory institute for at-risk children. Children who are just swimming in the street. They are at risk. They are children. They are taken there. They are trained in different trades. They reform them. They come out as carpenters. They come back as farmers. Whatever thing they can do to earn a living instead of just roaming the streets. So it's a reformatory institute. Then you can go back to the prison. In West Cameroon, what we call the productive prison. You didn't go to prison just to stay there. You went there and you were productive. You went to prison, you did something productive. The strongest ones in the Boya or in Bamanda were sent down to Moyuka. They went to Bavenga prison. Bavenga prison was essentially a farming prison. They farmed there in Bavenga, near Bafia in Moyuka, produced cocoyams, produced plantains that they were used to feed other prisons. They were not doing this thing for nothing. When you go into prison and you work like that, you were paid. A portion of the money was reserved for you. On your
Wow.
discharge, you were given that money to go and start a living.
Can you
But what
imagine?
happened? Yeah, they purported to adopt the productive prison thing in their whole system. The headquarters of the productive prison of the
Jesus.
nonsense in Cameroon is in Buya. They have a whole prison training school. But how many other productive prisons are there in Cameroon? Zero. In Buya, we had two
Wow.
prisons, what they call the upper farms, and the mid and the lower prisons, what they call the lower farms. The upper farm was essentially cattle rearing. They rear cattle. They produce milk. I bought milk from there and made money out of it. But what happened? When they reformed it, they sent their brothers there. They killed all the cows and sold the thing for meat. Cheap.
My
I bought
goodness.
some of the thing myself. So that is what it was. The greatest mistake
Wow.
we ever made, which is incorrigible, is that we ever joined these people.
Yeah.
When I was preparing this presentation, I came across a video being presented by Foncha, regretting how the gendarmes invaded his own government in 1961. He had never contemplated a
Yeah.
government. He had never contemplated gendarmes like that. They came and just invaded the whole place. Poor Foncha didn't know what
Can
to
you
do. He was the
imagine?
prime minister. He didn't know what to do. And above all, the greatest error we ever made was to join these people who were never prepared to learn what they did not know. What we had as qualities over in our own place, they never knew them. They were never prepared to learn anything from them. Now, I've mentioned the issue of schools with signboards. Douala is bigger than all the towns in southern Cameroon, each one. It has more schools than all of us. It has more traffic. Where did you ever see a stop sign in Douala or a school sign in Douala? They don't have those things. They are not prepared to learn about it. They are just prepared to destroy anything. Where did they ever find traffic cases in their course in Douala and Bafoussam? Where they don't exist. They are not prepared to learn from us. And so we were, there's nothing they can learn. Every institution they took from us, they destroyed it. Where the produce marketing board, they never had one. We had one that was marketing our produce. They took it and what did they do? They destroyed it, sold the houses, sold the property, killed the thing and left. They never had a printing press. What the printing press that was printing government documents in Boya? They took it to Yaoundé and then Boya printing press and next. Where's the printing press today? Zero. They sold everything, sold the machines, took the money. So the saddest error we made was to have joined these criminals who were never prepared to learn anything and they are not prepared to learn anything as we speak, which only mantra of operation is corruption. They either pay you with money to own what you have, or they destroy you, kill you, and take the inheritance for nothing. That's what it is all about. I hope they are following me. They destroy you, take your inheritance, and own it, and do what they want to do with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters of Southern Cameroon, we've lost so much, but this is not the end of the world. God willing, we'll recapitulate, we'll get what we can get back. We will build for a better future. Better be late than never. So, thank you.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is at this juncture that we say thank you very much to Barrister, and I would crave your indulgence as I'm putting it into audios. Please get the audio and listen to it again. This will provoke you to do everything at your disposal to send those criminals out of our land. They are not worth living in our land. And thank you, the young man from Bamenda, whoever you are. Sorry if I call you young man and you are not. He said, Barrister, I should thank you because you have actually clarified him. And I wish that's the same thing that goes with the people who have listened to you today. Yeah, thank you again. Thank you once again. And we look forward to having you most probably next week, God helping us. Ladies and gentlemen, do not go away. Stay tuned to ABC. Very soon, the Secretary of State for Communication, my boss, Dr. Mungwa, will be on to brief you of what is going on and the state of the revolution. Meanwhile, thank you, sister. Come in and then tell us again to remember what the barrister has just talked to us. When I remember. Let's go.
Provides my daily needs. That is why all of